Something that never fails to impress me are people that develop or have developed fan games purely due to the sheer amount of dedication that must go into them. It's astonishing and inspiring for that matter. For today, I'll be focusing on a fan game for one particular series, Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, most Sonic fan games are notorious for only getting a test level or a few regular levels finished, then not getting much further in development. I don't mean to bash on the fan game devs when I say this though, because I've never even tried to develop a game in my life. In all seriousness, I still find it impressive that people even start their own fan game projects. It is a shame though whenever you barely get to see them progress. One of the more popular Sonic fan games I've heard about constantly over the past year, Sonic Robo Blast 2, is one of the best fan games I've personally played in a very long time. SRB2, as I'll be calling it, is a platformer that started development all the way back in 1998. 22 years ago. Jeez dude, the people making this game must be super dedicated to it. I'll be sitting here all day saying that if I don't just jump into the game, so shall we? The story follows Robotnik plotting a new way to destroy Sonic after his latest blunder, just before this weird rock that only shows up every 5 years appearing then mysteriously disappearing comes by. Robotnik detects a lot of energy coming from it, so he decides to try and harness it to create the ultimate battle station. I feel like I've heard this over and over, like Robotnik, Eggman, whatever you want to call him, he's just stupid. So Robotnik gives Sonic a heads up that he hasn't called it quits yet, then Sonic and company embark to defeat him. Pretty simple. Now with that covered, let's talk about the game's weird controls. You control any of the given characters using either the keyboard and arrow keys or the mouse, and I know this might sound bad, but trust me, using the keyboard and mouse controls easily feel the best for the game. The mouse controls the camera while the WASD keys control character movement, and I'll admit this does take some getting used to, so before anything else I recommend checking out the tutorial. This admittedly is an odd way to control characters, but I don't think I could see a better way for this to work. Honestly, it works really well, which still surprises me. After you've got the basics of running and jumping down, you then have the character abilities. Sonic has a move called the Sonic Falk that sends him dashing forward. It's probably the worst out of the free characters' moves because it's not something you can easily control unlike Tails or Knuckles' abilities. Not to say it's bad, I am fully aware you can do some cool stuff with it, but personally it's just not my favorite out of the free. Speaking of them, both of their moves parallel that of the official games, flying, gliding, and climbing walls. Out of the free characters, I for once kinda prefer playing as Knuckles or Tails, reason being there are some segments of levels that are surprisingly difficult without utilizing their abilities, which makes me glad I always default to Sonic and Tails in my first playthrough of Sonic games. Related to this is another change which gives you the ability to fly with Tails without having to have another player control him. Just stand next to him until this arrow appears, jump, and he'll start flying. I'm really glad the developers added this in because there are a lot of areas that were made so much more fun to go through while flying. I don't like using it all the time since it feels like a cheap way to avoid difficult platforming, but whenever I start to get super frustrated, then I think I'm somewhat justified in using it. If you want to have the best experience playing the game, I'd recommend playing as either Tails or Knuckles, but if you're looking for a bit of difficulty, then go with Sonic or Sonic and Tails. Now for the levels, dude, these are so good. Like, seriously, I haven't had this much fun playing a 3D Sonic game in so long. They're designed to be like the classic Sonic games, and boy do they do a good job of that. There's diverging pathways, fun platforming with some hidden collectibles, the whole frickin' package. The theming as well is really good and pretty unique from the main games, and while the levels do focus on trying to be like the classics, it still feels like a fresh take on 3D Sonic level design, at least out of any I've played. It's a lot more open and exploration based. Unlike the modern titles, you're not blocked off from going backwards, but this can be a double-edged sword. Sometimes this is a good thing if you're looking for a shield or a few extra rings, but it can also end up confusing me a lot in terms of the direction I was supposed to be going in a few levels. This is a minor issue, but the path to the goalpost doesn't always feel clear, at least in my experience. Despite this, most of the level design doesn't feel unfair, though some of the later levels can kinda get really annoying with certain design choices, like Arid Canyon with its minecart segments. I'm partial to games implementing different gameplay elements like this, especially in this case since it genuinely stumped me. In Act 2, there's a minecart section that takes you into a mine, and everything's just fine. All you have to do is keep switching tracks until you hit the last set, and this is where I got stuck for a while. What you're meant to do is jump after switching tracks for the last time, but due to the lighting in the cave, I couldn't tell if that track even led anywhere, and there's even a few more jumps that you could easily miss if you aren't looking well enough. And after this zone, the level design really takes a turn for the worse. Red Volcano starts off looking pretty fun, but halfway through it I got stuck in so many areas that at that point I didn't even care about having to use tails. As of writing the script, Red Volcano Zone is incomplete, so I'm hoping they'll make some changes to it to make it and the zone to follow more fun, because Egg Rock is also yet another just plain annoying one. Now bosses are essentially just like the classic Robotnik fights, and for once I actually enjoy most of them. The fourth boss ate up my 2 continues, but trust me, it's not as hard as you think it would be if you just use common sense, which I didn't. The special stages are also great. Going into this right after Sonic CD, I am so glad to see another fun iteration of special stages, and from what I can tell, I think they're basically like that Nights into Dreams game Sega made in 1996, so maybe I'd enjoy that game. Now let's go over everything else. First though, listen to the music. It's so freaking good. It has no right to be as good as it is, but there are plenty of tracks I love listening to. Now for some reason, there's multiplayer in this game. And no, I'm not just talking about local co-op of Sonic and Tails, it actually has fully fledged online multiplayer. Yeah, this is another completely uncalled for but much appreciated addition, and there are a good number of fun modes in it as well. The one I play the most is Free For All. Basically, in it you compete against others to get the highest score. You do this by attacking and defeating others, but what makes this mode so much fun are the different weapon rings and character options you have. Weapon rings, in the best way I can describe them, are like normal rings. You can collect them, but to use them you'll have to collect their respective emblem. Each ring has a unique ability. For example, this bomb ring explodes and affects a small area, and the rail ring is like the standard ring but it travels instantaneously. They're all good in their own ways and for different situations, so utilize them wisely, and for the love of frick, don't spam! If you're not careful though, you can lose the emblems for the rings by simply getting hit, which is what makes this such a frantic game mode. Alongside this, you can find the Chaos Emeralds scattered across each map. All they do is give you a short period of temporary invincibility, but in the right situation, it can really give you the edge over the competition. Each character has their own specific advantages and disadvantages in this mode. My personal favorite, Fang, is good for keeping opponents from hitting you easily mid-air, but if you time the shot just right, you can hit him just as he hits the ground for another tail bounce. It's just amazing to me how not a single character seems to be the definitive best here. Of course, some have downsides like Amy for example, but apart from her, they're pretty well balanced. The other game modes are pretty fun as well, but personally I enjoy Free For All the most. As for the other extras, the game has unlockable characters and bonus stages. Like I said a minute ago, I think each character is balanced in a way that they're all decently enjoyable to play as, and bonus stages being included is also incredibly sick, and if anything, it really goes to show how much the developers really care about this game. Genuinely, this is a fantastic fan game. The sheer amount of content in this game, especially for a fan-made product that is entirely free, is astounding. And heck, even if you're not into the bonuses, there is an entire freaking modding community for this game. Like, what the hell, that is so cool! Going into SRB2, I expected to only find 3 or so finished zones, but I'm sorry that I ever doubted it, because this may very well be my favorite fan game that I have ever played. There are fun levels, mods, loads of extras, a bopping soundtrack, Basically everything you could ever ask for. So the takeaway of the video? Download the game, dum-dum!